Hi. So what was a recap of 2015 in commodities? And I think the answer can be put in two parts. One is it can be looked at geographically. So you had, for example, if you start with the US, then the increase in US Fed rates after more than 9 years was a big step which affected commodities. On the other hand, if you look at Europe, you had the ECB, the European Central Bank, continuing its stimulus policies, which were in direct opposition to the way the US policy is unfolding. And the third big factor in this would be the Chinese demand. So as we know, Chinese growth was extremely high and is now tapering down, continuing to slow, and this is having a big effect on the commodity prices. So geographically, I would say that the US, Europe and China would be one theme which played out during 2015 and affected commodity prices. And the effect of that was that the prices of commodities naturally crashed because you had more supply, essentially you had less demand from China, Europe and so on. And the stronger dollar also made for prices to go down. So if you quickly look at gold, for example, is down 9% in dollar terms over 2015, but mind you, it is just 6% in rupees, and we'll come to that. And then you have silver, which has a similar trajectory as gold, as always. You have copper, which was down about 20%. And even today, because of Peru's increased production, which is likely in 2016 to the extent of 66% of its own production, which leads up to about 5% of the global production. So copper, again, the glut should continue, and 2015 was not a good year in terms of prices. Crude oil, I think if there is one commodity which is a proxy for global growth, it is crude oil. So while you have seen crude oil prices crash, it crashed 30% in 2015 and 60% over the last 18 months. And that essentially shows how much global growth has been affected. So while on one end we look at it as being good for consuming economies like India, for importers like us, but of course, because it is a sign of how global growth is not doing well, it also affects our exports. So that's one. Others, you also had nickel, which was an extreme collapse, 38 to 40% down in the year. And significantly for us, in spite of all these prices going down, we also had a 9% fall in the rupee. So all of the commodities which we import did not necessarily get cheaper for us, because the import duty would make it more expensive for the people who are, when the rupee rates have gone up. And so this not import duty, sorry, the exchange rates which are there, they would have a big effect. So therefore, I'll put this in two buckets, which was 2015 was depending on the geography and how they reacted, or how they created, or how they affected the commodity prices. And the second, of course, is the commodities prices themselves and how each of them is very significant for global growth as well as India's future growth.